We finally got some content to appear on the screen of our browser. Ah, but that's just not good enough, is it? No way. So, stay tuned, because now that we've got a working application put together, we're going to start to focus on the JSX that we had written into our app component in the index.js file. First, I just want to explain what exactly JSX is. You've had a little bit of an introduction, but I want you to know that when you look at this stuff, as I've said many times, it looks like HTML, but in reality, it's not. So I want to give you a quick reminder about something that we spoke about just a little bit ago. So remember that I told you that when we write ES 2015 code, which you and I like to do as developers, we do not send it directly into a user's browser because their browser might not have ES 2015 or 2016 or 2017 fully supported. So in order to get around that, we made use of the dependency called Babel. Now, we made use of Babel to take that ES 2015, 2016, or whatever code and convert it down to a normal ES5 JavaScript. All right, we got that out the way. Now, before JSX actually gets sent down to a user's browser, it gets converted into normal-looking JavaScript code. And you might be immediately curious as to how do we take something that looks like this right here and turn it into an equivalent normal JavaScript? Well, my friends, be curious no more, because that's why we use this little brilliant tool called Babel. Now, I'm going to open up a new browser tab, and I'm going to navigate to the Babel homepage, which is at babeljs.io, right on here. And I'm going to find the Try It Out button right here at the very top. So now on this interface, we can write a certain amount of code here on the left-hand side. Now, this can be ES 2015, 2016 code that contains JSX as well. And then Babel will automatically convert that code into normal ES5 JavaScript and show it on the right-hand side. So really quickly, I want you to have a look at the left-hand panel over here and find the preset section. And just make sure that the React checkbox is checked. All right, so then once we're sure that it's checked, I'm going to go back over to my index.js file, and I'm going to copy the entire app component that we just put together, and I'm going to paste it back over here on the left-hand side. All right, so as you can see, that div right there and that kind of JSX-looking thing actually gets turned into a JavaScript function call. Excellent. It's a call to react.createElement. So the first argument is a string that indicates the type of element that we want to create. And then the third element is the text that we want to show inside of that div. So every time that you see the JSX we're writing gets turned into this big function call right here. So you might be curious. If this JSX gets turned into a function call, why don't we just write it out and write out a lot of function calls? Well, I think the answer is really simple. Let's picture, if you will, that we have a little bit more of a complicated component than what you might see right here. So let's say, for example, maybe we have a div that contains a UL element inside of it, and then the UL elements contain a couple of LI. So I'm going to put a couple of LI, and maybe those LI have text of their own, like hi. Now, when we take a look at this thing in its JSX form, it's pretty easy to tell what's going on if we're familiar with how HTML works. Now, you can take a glance at this over here and understand that this app component is going to create a div that has a UL and 3 LI. Now, also, you can very quickly see what text those LIs are going to contain. However, if you look at the converted results over here on the right-hand side, it's a lot harder to understand the exact structure and content of what this component is. So the entire purpose of JSX is to just be able to allow us to write out these different function calls that normally occur behind the scenes for us in a much easier to understand, much easier to read, and that way we'll get a better sense of what's going on. Now, when you make use of React, it's not required to use JSX, but it's not just me. I'd say that most everybody highly recommends it. Because if you try to write out all these different function calls, you're going to very quickly write out some code that's very challenging and difficult to maintain. Okay, I'm glad I got that off my chest. Thanks for listening.